Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Heavy Lifting Podcast. Today I have an awesome guest, Chris over with MoveU in New Hampshire. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course.
I'm very excited to take a deep dive. There's lots of different stuff we're going to take a look at, but it sounds like you're really an expert when it comes to moving in general, but specifically the senior living side of moving. But before we hop into that, I'd love to hear a little bit about your story. How did you get into the moving industry?
Probably similar to a lot of us. You start out working for a company in college, or here and there, someone who's like, hey, you want to come and. So I worked for a few companies in New Hampshire. In college, when I moved to Massachusetts, Boston specifically, I worked for a pretty big company down there. And then, throughout trying other jobs and trying to do what I went to school for, which was health and fitness. So that's why moving kind of paired well with that. Just on and off, not a full-time thing. And then when I moved to Phoenix, when I was 26, I worked for a company for 3 years, worked my way up, and just was a really good crew leader, and decided that I wanted to do my own thing, and then had my own company out there, kind of owner operator for 3 years, moved back to New Hampshire 3 years ago and started MoveU in New Hampshire. So I don't know, maybe 10 plus years, but 9 really strong years.
That's awesome. So over a decade of experience in the moving industry. And like you said, this is the story a lot of people go through. You're looking for a job, whether that be out of college, whatever that might be. And sometimes the moving industry sort of pulls you in. But there's a couple separate parts I want to talk about there. You said you're in Boston. Did I get that right? Is that where you started your first moving company?
No, in Phoenix, I started my own, yeah, but I did work for a company in Boston.
Okay. Now, I'm curious, when you were working originally for someone else, you learned a lot. You said you're a great crew lead. At what point did you decide, I'm ready to start my own moving company? What was the flip in your brain that you said, I want to do this myself?
I remember telling some of first, before I was a crew leader, I would just notice things, I don't know, quality of work, or just, I'm like, all right, if these are the crew leaders, and maybe some of them were awesome, but some of them weren't. And I was just thinking, like, and so many customers would compliment me or some of the other guys I worked with. And I think just over that and becoming a crew leader and just my level of attention and care, I'm like, man, you know what? Like, if I got paid in compliments, I would be rich. So, I mean, that's what we thought. We all think like, oh, I could go do a job, and then you realize owning a company is not that easy. It's easy when it's just you and one guy, but when you have a crew of people you have to manage, it's a whole different story. But
Yeah.
that kind of gave me the confidence to kind of do your own thing. I never took jobs from the company I worked for, but um, I would do kind of side things. I'd grab one or two of the guys if it was an outside ask.
Hmm.
Hey, do you want to help us move? Yeah, sure. And I would just do the same thing that we did at that company, but for this person. And then just realizing the reward you get when it is all you. And when I worked for other companies, I wouldn't get, like, they wouldn't let us know if we got a good review or not from a customer. And it was kind of just left in the, like, how am I doing? Am I doing good? Like, the customer is telling me I'm doing good, but I'm not getting that from the ownership or the management. Maybe sometimes, but I knew I was doing a great job. And I remember one of the guys that was a crew leader that I worked for or under, he told me one day, he's like, man, you would be a good boss. And I was like, why? He's like, because you care and you're bossing me around. I'm like, well, I'm not trying to boss you around. This needs to be done right. And the way that I saw customers be treated, and it just was like, I don't want to work for, I wanted to do it my own way.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're almost a little bit underappreciated. A couple people sort of pointed out to you, whether that be a client or whether that be a colleague, they say, you're doing a really good job at this. And then you got to see, it's cool that you did some jobs, on the side. You weren't stealing moves or anything. People reached out to you directly for moves. You reached out to some of your favorite crew members and you went and did that yourself. And then you realize, okay, I can also have all of that upside. So that brings us then to Phoenix, where you operated your own business. Was it also called MoveU or was it a different entity?
So when I started my own, I actually came up with the name Move University.
Hmm.
And everyone thought all I did was move colleges, which I didn't at all. But I called it Move University. It's actually pretty cool. So I wanted to, working for those other companies, I almost felt like a big brother to some of the people, even if they were older than me.
Hmm.
Just having a college degree, caring about my health, reading self-help books. I always wanted to be a better person. And working at some of these moving companies, as I'm sure you know, you're with these people that maybe don't care much about life or just being a better person and advancing or their health at all. So I wanted to create a place where, okay, if you didn't go to college, you could come and work here and graduate and go do what you actually want to do. No one wants to be a mover forever.
I like that.
So I wanted to create this place, Move University, where you could come here, learn some stuff. There's so much you can learn on a moving job. One, it's a low barrier to entry, but you're going to learn how to take care of people's stuff. You're going to learn how to work as a team. Physical labor is hard, so it's going to test you mentally and physically. And just personal skills. You're in these people's homes. You have to. So I was trying to create this thing. In Move University, everyone thought that I was moving colleges. So I said, I have to figure out a different. So I just changed it to MoveU.
So it sounds like you had a really good intention there with the name, Move
Yeah.
University. It's almost like a stepping stone for people to get onto that next part of their life. And you see that a lot in the moving industry, and it's a great part of the moving industry is, if you're really hardworking, you can do a lot, you can grow within the business, and then if you want to go on to the next chapter of your life, you can. If you want to start your own moving company, you can. If you want to grow within a bigger company, you can do that too. But it sounds like it had that sort of catch-22 where people thought, oh, you guys don't move, normal residential moves or commercial moves, you only do universities. Now, when you changed to Move You, was that when you moved back to New Hampshire, or was that still in Phoenix?
It was still in Phoenix, so the business was still under Move University. I just did business as MoveU.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then to another, just real quick on what I said previously,
Yeah, please.
I used moving as a stepping stone.
Okay, cool.
I went out to Phoenix to pursue my fitness career and was using moving as just a temporary. And
Hmm.
so I realized what it was doing, what it was helping me do. So that's why I kind of wanted it like, hey, if you want to be a photographer and you just need some money, be a mover because it's easy. It's kind of mindless in a way, but that was just another reason.
And the schedule is so flexible. It's funny that you bring up photographer because one of our best guys, shout out to Locke, when we had our moving company here in Miami, he was a professional full-time photographer, but he was earlier on in his career, he wasn't filling out every single day of the week. And we gave him so much flexibility, we paid him well, he got good tips, and he still got to do his photography on the side.
Right.
And since we're not doing the move anymore, I love to see that he has a successful career in photography now. And that's also super rewarding to see, the people that you train up. And like you said, you learn so many interpersonal skills. You stay fit while you're doing it. You learn how to manage a team, all of this fun stuff. Now, I'm curious, Chris, what made you leave Phoenix and decide to move to a new market? Because you already have your book of business in one location. What prompted that decision?
My daughter was approaching first grade,
Hmm.
and my wife grew up in Phoenix. I grew up in New Hampshire, and she would hear, I would bring her once a year or twice a year to visit. My family's here, her family's there, and it's not that she loves Phoenix. I do too. But I think hearing stories of me growing up and having the Four Seasons and being the Lakes region, Boston, the beach, all within 45 minutes from southern New Hampshire, hearing the stories that I had growing up versus the stories she had in Phoenix, it's either hot or it's hot, and it's desert. So when our daughter was approaching first grade, we thought, where do we want to raise her and what schools and all that. So we decided let's move back to New Hampshire.
I love that. So it was a family decision before anything, and then sort of the business trails behind. What was that like? Because when you move to a new location, you almost start again, right? You still have all of your skills and everything, but what was that first year like back in New Hampshire, building a book of business, growing a business?
So I was ready to leave moving behind. I thought I'm going to do something different. I'm going to move home. Maybe I'll pursue my health and fitness career as something that I always want to do. And my business partner currently is a realtor. And I remember when I moved back, I wasn't going to do moving. And then everyone knew me as the mover from Phoenix, like all my friends and family members and kids I went to high school with. And it only took a few times for people to ask me to help. And I'm like, man, when I was in Phoenix, I didn't know. I mean, I knew people, but I didn't have the network that I do here. And I'm like, if I did that in Phoenix, imagine what I can do here with a business partner and knowing like this is where I grew up. I have way more connections here. So I was like, you know what? Let's do it. My business partner being the realtor, he's like, it was really nice having someone to bounce ideas off of versus it all being me. And so that first year was I worked full time at Amazon delivering packages and uh, would take days off to do moves and that first year was interesting. Definitely different being here versus being in Phoenix, but yeah, it was a whole different learning experience.
I bet. And I love that you were sort of hustling, you know, you were doing, just like you said, it was a stepping stone, right? You were doing Amazon on the side. That wasn't your passion, right? But that keeps the bills paid. And then you're building that book of business for MoveU. And that's the really cool thing for any audience members who, you know, might be thinking about starting a moving company, you're at the very beginning. Lean on your local network, you know? If you know a lot of people in the area, you are known as the moving guy. Tell everyone you're the moving guy. Give your friends and family, you know, a local discount. Learn through them. Make sure you take good care of their stuff. Start filtering in those reviews, and you'd be amazed how much business you just get from that. Now, I'm curious, Chris, when you're in Phoenix, how big was your operation there in terms of trucks, crew? What did that look like?
So it was me and one guy,
The good old
and
days.
yeah, and we had a third or a fourth if needed. My cousin had moved out there and lived with us for a little bit, so he would hop on jobs pretty frequently. But doing the senior moves in those senior communities, two people could handle almost everything.
Mm,
It's two-bedroom apartments. The nice thing about Phoenix, no one really has a basement. There's a lot of one-story homes. There's no threshold. Like there's no stairs going in or out of the house, so we would dolly everything.
oh, cool.
So two of us could easily do a two-bedroom apartment, maybe two or three a day, in and out of those senior homes. So it was just me and one guy.
I love it. Just killing it. Just you and one other guy in Phoenix. That's great. And you started, it seems like you almost started to take on a lot of business and specialize in the senior living facilities and the senior living homes. Was that a business decision or did that just sort of come naturally?
So the company I worked for previously did a lot of senior moving. So you have the owners of the company, we're the crew leaders and the crew members. We were in the facilities more than they were.
Hmm.
So when I left, I didn't, I went to other senior homes that they weren't a part of.
Hmm.
Maybe you did a move or two there, but they weren't the preferred mover
Yep.
at these other facilities. And I was like, I don't want to step on anyone's toes. But the facilities that we were at were like, where's Chris? Where? And some of the guys said, oh, he started his own company. And then they called me
Mm.
because they were used to seeing me every day. You know, like, we like you. And I was like, I mean, I'm not going to say no. If you guys want to use me, I was purposely not trying to come here and take business from that company. Um, and I would still see them throughout those 3 years. They would still go there, but I just very quickly became the preferred mover for those two large senior homes.
And it's a testament as well to the level of quality you bring, right? And this is for anyone listening in, this is such a good way to get recurring business. You know, when you're just doing a residential move, you've got a 3 or 4 bedroom house, you know, yes, there's an element to recurringness of this. You know, if they're doing lease to lease, you're going to get them every year, every 2 years. But the great thing about senior living homes or like apartments which only rent out, if you build a relationship with the people who actually manage that property, very much like you did, and you become that preferred mover, one of these locations, how many moves were they giving you a year roughly?
I mean, we were At two of the main senior homes, we were there probably 4 to 5 times a week doing multiple either move in, move outs, or internally. So they would have model rooms. We would do these all the time. So they have a model room that they show future residents.
Hmm.
Well, the future resident would say, I want this room. And so they would pay us to move this model to another room, set it up exactly how it was. And we did that, I mean, multiple times. So it was in and out of the facility, within the facility. Also, if someone's going in as independent living and then they need to go to assistant living and then they go to memory care, and then if someone ends up, which would happen, if they end, that might be their last move. So within those 3 years, people would pass that you moved in. So there's that part. But then we would move the items out to a family member's home or to donation, depending on what they had. So, and then not only those people, but their kids, even if their kids, if these elderly people are between 70, 80, 90 years old, and their kids see you move in their parents and they see how you take care of their stuff, now they ask you to move them.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I saw how you took care of mom. We're moving. Can you move us? So we would get residential moves outside of that as well.
That's amazing. And just to repeat that for the audience, Chris is saying he's getting 4 to 5 moves a week for just one location sometimes. The repeat aspect of that is super, super beneficial, building those relationships, taking care of the customers the right way. Did you pay any sort of commission to the people when they referred you, or was that more just on a you guys do a great job, you're the preferred mover basis?
Yeah, it was that.
It's awesome.
And then you start moving the staff members. We would have lunch in the cafeteria.
Fun.
We would get lunch vouchers all the time. So
You
it
take
would,
over from the inside. At that point,
yeah,
you're just like ingrained in that senior living facility. They all know Chris and his guys, and you're just a go-to every time. So that's really awesome. And like you said too, you're going to move the family members. We hear this so often in the moving industry, especially when it comes to the senior living side of things. When they're 70 plus, it really is difficult for them, and you leave an impression behind on them. Now, that's something I want to talk about as well. You need some amount of mental fortitude and a lot of patience with these senior living moves, because it's not just moving, but you're helping them sort through sort of, okay, what am I taking? What am I leaving behind? You're packing with them. How do you train that into your guys? Because it's not an easy trait to come by.
no. And when I'm hiring, I like to hire on personality more than previous skills.
I love that.
Um, I've had people come here with moving experience, but not a great attitude.
Hmm.
And I feel like to some extent you can teach anyone how to be a mover. They have to have basic skills on like common sense, but and it's also the strongest person isn't the best mover. So I think it comes down to, are you a nice person? Are you honest? Or do you complain? Like these are things that come down to who we hire, and not everyone's always a good fit. Someone might be great in an interview, and then a month or two later, you realize maybe they're not a good fit. And just very quickly, you hear from the other crew members how that person is. Like I've let people go immediately if they're on a job and they're swearing or being rude or just not. You're in these people's homes, and I wanted to change the stereotype of a mover, at least the ones that I worked with. Not everyone, but working for other companies, you very quickly see, okay, I don't want someone like that on my crew.
Yeah. And people don't realize it's like a walking business card, your crew members, right? They're wearing your jerseys, they're in your truck. And like you said, there's just some things which just shouldn't be accepted, whether that be swearing or whatever it might be. And of course, guys are going to be guys. If you're in the truck and you're hauling from one location to the next, do you. But when you're customer facing, it's really important to always be representing that business. And just like you said, when you're hiring, I love that, is hire for personality, and then moving can be trained. Like you said, for 99% of people, moving can be trained, and personality is something, that's taken them their 20, 25, 30, 35 years of their life to get there. So really appreciate that sentiment. Now I'm curious, coming back to New Hampshire, what is your moving operation looking like now? Are you still doing mostly senior living? Do you do residential moves as well? What does that look like?
So mostly residential.
Okay.
We do senior moving, not as much as Phoenix. However, they're just in Phoenix. It's probably like this in Florida too. People go there to retire.
Hmm.
There's huge campuses and communities for senior living out there, and in Florida. In New Hampshire, they're smaller. Like you may not have a big college campus. They're almost like a multifamily home, or it's just a lot smaller. So there may not be that many people going out of one facility. However, we do a lot of 55 and over moves. So in New Hampshire, there's a lot of AUDs, so people moving in with other family members.
Hmm.
Maybe they're leaving the house that they lived in for 40 years and they're going to go live with their daughter. So we still do a lot of senior moving, not as much as, I mean, we're the preferred mover for a few senior facilities, but not like in Phoenix as far as getting 4 or 5 moves in one location.
Yeah,
Um,
it sounds a little bit like it's just a different kind of demographic, right? Like in Phoenix, it sounds like you had those, I love the way you put it, big college campuses for senior people. And then in New Hampshire, it's a little bit different where you don't have as much of that and you're doing that. Now, how many trucks do you guys have and how many crews do you now have in New Hampshire?
so we have one 26-foot, this one, and then we have two 16-foot trucks. Um, we rent for the summer as we need. We are looking to get another big truck, but for what we have 10 guys right now. Um, the summer's pretty busy. In the winter, not as much, so it might drop down to 7 or 8 guys, but you need that many to do. Like houses out here, they all have a basement. A lot of them have a garage. They're multi floors, so you need that many people to get a job done in a day.
Gotcha.
Um, so we have 3 trucks. We rent as we need. 10 guys. We have one central hub, and that's in Bedford, New Hampshire. We have a 50, 60 mile radius of what we do majority of our moves,
Hmm.
but we do travel within New England. So Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, Connecticut. We go to Rhode Island. We hit all the New England states, and we don't go outside of that.
That's awesome. And how long, I'm not sure if I caught this, your New Hampshire location, for MoveU, how long have you guys been in business in that location?
3 years.
Okay, so that's awesome. You know, you had 3 years in Phoenix as well. Now you're doing the same thing in New Hampshire, except you're just, by the sounds of it, doing a better job of it. You know, you've
Yeah.
scaled the team, you've got those additional trucks. How are you bringing in all of these moves every month? What does your like marketing stack look like? Is it word of mouth? Are you running ads? What does all that look like?
I'm not running ads yet. I have been wanting to do that. We do USA home listing,
Okay.
the postcards.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them. I was a part of a few B&Is. That was great. I'm not in one anymore, but I think just realtor connections,
Awesome.
um, just trying to be a part of the community, going out there, visiting the senior communities. We don't really do too much advertising. I think we get a lot on our Google reviews and Facebook shout outs. I would say a huge one is in your area, if you could get into the Facebook community groups,
Mm-hmm.
when someone asks for a mover and you see 20 people shout out MoveU, it feels good.
Yeah.
And it also lets you know, okay, who are the other companies that are getting shout outs, so you can kind of check them out. But I think the Facebook groups, the realtors, the postcards, I want to start doing ads and just referrals from previous customers.
There's so much I want to unpack here because you're like dropping gems. Um, I think people forget how important it is to be boots on the ground. You said it perfectly. Is building a relationship in your local area goes such a long way. So let's sort of address these one at a time. You mentioned you used to do some BNIs, right? So that's awesome. That's just a great way to get to know business people around you. For anyone watching, join your local BNI chapter. Go talk to business people. They're going to put you in contact with the right people. You can help them out. They can help you out. So we'll go ahead and one and done that. Now I want to talk about USA mail listings and your mailers. Is that something you've been doing the whole 3 years? What does that process look like for someone who's never done that before?
So I found out about them. I went to one of the Titan retreats that
Nice.
Wade puts on. Yeah. So I went to one. We like didn't even have our truck wrapped yet. I went out there the first year that we opened, and Greg Shepard was the owner at the time, and now Eric Works is, I think. But um, he's like, you got to do this USA homeless thing, like the postcards. So what it is you subscribe to a county, you get all the data from any house that's upcoming, newly listed, or under contract. All the houses in that zip code. You can even so we do any house that's 400,000 up to 1.5 million,
Awesome.
and it sends them a postcard. You can either have them design it or you design it, and they do it they send the postcard. It's so you pay a monthly subscription to that county, and you can have different campaigns. Like we have 6 different counties that we send postcards to, and you can kind of like, all right, this area has nicer homes than this one, or just the price ranges. So you can play around with that with the data, and you can extract that data. It tells you the realtor. It's kind of crazy. The homeowner or the person renting the house. You can call them, but I don't. I have reached out to the realtors though. That is a great. It's a really good tool. So you could see who the realtors are, how active they are. Like I could export data from one county, who's the highest producing realtor, or at least out of this data,
Hmm.
who's the realtor that's linked to the most of these homes, and reach out to them if you're not already working with them. And then yeah, send a postcard. I mean, I've gone to homes on the seacoast or 1.5 million homes that maybe I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity to do if they hadn't received my postcard.
That's awesome. And how do you track sort of your return on investment there? Is there a QR code they scan? Do they just call you and you ask them like, how did you hear about us? What does that side of things look like?
Yeah, so we use smart moving,
Awesome.
and within there, some people have a QR code that's linked. I haven't really messed with that yet on the QR code and linking that up with.
Hmm.
But in smart moving, we just, how did you hear about us? Postcard, okay, and then we just have that in there.
And for those of you listening who don't know what smart moving is, it's going to be one of the biggest CRMs in the moving space. Really, really good. There's a couple different ones out there, but smart moving is one of those, top tier ones. And I'm sure there's just a drop down. How did you hear about us? You put that down, and then when you look at your revenue numbers at the end of the month, year, whatever it is, you can break it down by each of your different marketing categories. I love that, by the way. Really awesome. I didn't even know this, but with the USA home listings, that you can sort by realtors and then just pick up the phone and talk to them, introduce yourself, because that's the next part I want to talk about. Again, boots on the ground, talking to your local realtors and building those connections. How do you prefer to do that? Do you prefer to pick up the phone, see them in person, send some business their way? How do you go about that?
If I can, I prefer to do in person.
I love that.
I think you can get a way better connection. I think going out for coffee, you get to kind of see their mannerisms, and is this someone that I want to work with? Because you do business with people you like.
Mm,
So there's realtors that I'll be out and about and I'll see them, and it's a great, hey, it's an awesome interaction, and especially if they're local, you might see them at the grocery store, you might see them with their family at some outdoor. I don't know if they have kids. You get to so it's really cool to build connections like that. So in person, I prefer, but based on people's schedules, I've met with realtors on the seacoast that's like 45 minutes away. It's a lot easier to meet virtually than it is to go get a coffee.
of course.
But I think any interaction is good. In person, I just prefer.
That's great. And I think you mentioned a great point there, which I want to highlight, which is you don't need to do business with every realtor. If you can ideally meet with these people in person, feel them out, you want to do business with people that you like and people who are a good reflection of you, right? Because if they're referring you and you're referring them, you really want it to be people who do business in a similar way to you. So meet with those people, And I know at the beginning, some people watching this, you might want to just get every last piece of business you want in any way possible. But the longer you grow, the more you realize, like, I want to be surrounded with people who do business in a similar way to me. They do it ethically, they do it right. And as I'm sure you well know, realtors vary a lot. So find out the ones that you really like, invest into that relationship, and it's going to pay off tenfold. Now, I want to mention as well the group chats, whether that be Facebook group chats, WhatsApp group chats. I remember when we had a moving business here in Miami, that was killer. Less so on Facebook. We were super involved in WhatsApp group chats of like local areas, whether that be new mums near me or new mums near me, I mean like new mothers in the area. Those group chats were killer. I'm sure you see the same thing with Facebook. Are you actively going out and looking to join these groups, or does that sort of just happen organically when people refer you because you do such a great job?
So that started when I was in BNI because people in that group, they loved doing that. And it was cool because I was a part of a BNI in one area, but not everyone in that BNI is in that town.
Hmm.
So you might meet in, for us, like for instance, you might meet in Londonderry, but this person lives in Manchester, this person lives in Nashua, all the surrounding areas. So they're all part of their town Facebook groups. So they can invite you. Even though you don't live there, you could still be like, I don't actively post that much in those groups, but I can see what people are posting.
Mm.
And ask your friends and family. Like I know, I mean, I have friends that live in other towns that are part of their group page. So when someone asks for a mover, they tag us.
Chris with MoveU, Chris with MoveU, yeah.
Yeah. And then I've gotten a lot of people that call saying, um, I was going to use another mover, but you got mentioned 20 times. So, you know,
It
come and
must be
give me
good.
an estimate or a quote. And that's an opportunity to win over that move.
That's amazing. Now,
Also, in those groups, it's not enough just to be tagged. You want to see if you can click on that person's name and write them a personal message.
I love that. That must go so above and beyond because think about it. How many moving companies are actually doing that? If someone tags you and then you reach out to them specifically, you're probably closing them, at above a 70% rate because it's very interpersonal, and it shows that you actually care. You're monitoring those group chats and you care about their mood. If you're dealing with that before you've even booked them, what's the experience going to be like afterwards? So
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing everything right. That's really awesome. Now, you mentioned as well, did I catch that correctly? You have a business partner?
Yes.
What's that like having a business partner versus going the journey alone?
I think the biggest pro is when you have to make decisions, having someone to bounce those ideas off of.
Mm.
When you're by yourself, unless you have a business coach, if I have an issue, I'm much more active in the company than he is. However, he knows exactly what's going on. We make decisions together. I don't really make big decisions without his input because it's like we're a lot alike with how we want to pursue the company. And so I could call him and say, hey, I'm maybe dealing with this problem, or here's an opportunity. What do you think we should do? And if it aligns with our values, then we'll pursue it or shut it down.
That's awesome. Just a bouncing board at the end of the day. And it
Yeah.
sounds like you're a little bit more active in the business. And entrepreneurship can also be a lonely journey, right? So having that business partner who you can bounce things off of and someone you get along with really well, was he also your business partner back in Phoenix, or has that only been in New Hampshire?
I was by myself in Phoenix.
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
was, yeah, answering the phones. I was doing everything.
Wearing every hat possible, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, it seems like you've built like a bulletproof reputation, whether that be on the Facebook groups, whether that be Google reviews. You've mentioned a couple times you ask people for things, whether that be for your friends, whether that be from clients. How do you really build that really amazing reputation in your area? Is that just because you're going above and beyond on every single move, or are you also asking things from your clients?
I think having good Google reviews. So I tell our guys at the end of a move, if you don't feel confident asking for a Google review, something went wrong. Like Winston Davis with Big Lick Moving, he tries to have a 50% review rate.
Hmm.
So if he does 10 moves, five of those need to be a 5-star Google review. And I think building a reputation like that, I mean, we have 300, we have over 300 5-star reviews and maybe a few 1-stars in there. And stuff is going to happen. Like
Moving industry.
sometimes it's going to happen, but to have a 4.9 over 300 reviews in 3 years, um, I think it's just really taking care of the customer. If something breaks, or I mean, I've fired people if they were ever rude to a customer right that day, and told the customer, that's. I think it's just at the end of the day, really taking care of the people, our movers, the customers, anyone we meet out in the field, and always doing right by them. If we ever mess up, it's always, what can we do to make this better? And they know it wasn't on purpose. Nothing that we do, if something breaks, is not on purpose. So it's really just taking care of people.
Taking care of people and then pushing them towards those Google reviews as well, so
Yeah.
that it can be sort of forward facing. Now, I want to talk a little bit about mindset. Remind me again what you studied originally?
Health and wellness, nutrition, fitness.
Amazing. So you studied health and wellness, nutrition. It doesn't sound like you studied too much of business, but you've very much become an advocate of living the life of being an entrepreneur. How do you still teach yourself day in, day out to become a better version of who you were yesterday? It seems like you're very introspective and you're looking to improve that. How do you go about that, especially within the moving industry?
When I was in my mid 20s, I dove into self-help books, and I've just always really enjoyed philosophy and psychology, and trying to, I think it comes down to being a good people person. I'm not the best business owner, but I think I'm great with people. And so because of that, I've learned to just kind of navigate the business world. And there's some people that know all their KPIs, and I probably should too, but that's where having a business partner is great. I focus on just being a really good person in everyday life, and being a father and a business owner and a husband, and in the health and fitness space, being a trainer, you're almost like a therapist, and you kind of have to do that with the personal training. So that kind of, being a coach of my movers, it's just, if I have to set the example, I have to be on my feet all the time, and listening to people, but also not going too far down that road, because you can learn, and not do anything.
Mm.
So it's like, all right, I learned something, put the book down, and don't pick up another one until you've implemented. So speed of implementation is huge too.
So that's awesome. There's a couple of things I want to touch on there. First of all, become the best version of yourself. And it sounds like that reflects into everything. That reflects into friendships, family, business. And then also speed to implementation. I love that because you can listen to as many motivational podcasts as you want. You can read as many books, but actually going out there and implementing it is probably what has caused a lot of your success. Reading about something, trying it, not everything works, but then getting that feedback loop and constantly improving. For people watching, not necessarily moving specific, but in terms of self-help, I imagine you've read a lot of books. You have any sort of tip-top favorites that you might recommend?
The Four Agreements.
I like the Four Agreements. It's a good one.
I think that's good just for, um, that's a great one. I think Stephen Pressfield has a few books on creativity. Um, I'm trying to think of ones that really changed. I mean, a long time ago, I read How to Make Friends and Influence People.
Okay.
That's a longer one, though. That book is pretty long, but that's a great read. There's a book, Four, that my partner gave me, and that's about being for the customer, for the community, for your employees,
Mm.
and not. It really taught. well, I was already like this, so that book aligned with me, but there was a lot of insight on being for other people, for your company, for your employees, not looking at things selfishly.
So
Uh,
almost acting in service by the sounds of it.
yeah, Traction is a great book. I think those are good ones to start with.
Okay, so I'm gonna rewatch this recording so that I can check out some of those, but they're all great recommendations for you guys watching. There's a lot of different stuff in there. You know, the Four Agreements is very much self-help, looking at how you live your life and affect those people around you. How to Win Friends and Influence People, amazing book. And then I want to read Four as well. That sounds like it's a good one. So I appreciate all of those recommendations. That's really awesome. And I think a lot of the successful people I speak with, they've invested in themselves, whether that be self-help. You mentioned as well you did the Moving Titan retreat, but just looking to constantly improve and give more allows you to also receive more. So that's awesome, and thank you for sharing all of that. Now, business has had already a lot of success. Over the next couple years, what more would you like to see from MoveU?
I don't want to open multiple locations. New Hampshire's pretty small, and I like being, like Wade talks about being the hometown Titan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we try to stay within New England. People ask us to move long distance, and I don't.
Hmm.
But even though I don't want to open up multiple locations, it would be New Hampshire's a lot of back roads. It's woodsy like this picture behind me. So maybe having one truck and a crew kind of spread out because we do charge for travel time. So the Lakes region is an hour and a half away from me. There's no real big mover there. The Seacoast, there's a few movers out near Keene. All of those are within like an hour drive. So it would be cool to have maybe a truck and a few guys out there, like satellite locations.
Yeah.
Southern New Hampshire being our main hub. So it wouldn't be like a franchise. I don't want to go open one in Boston. There's already so many moving companies down there that I'm sure they got it covered. Um, that's something I want to look into. I think just I'm still very much involved in the day to day. So I think over the next few years, kind of extracting myself, letting the company be would be something that I want to work towards. Um, I mean, I'm 36, so my thing was like, by the time I'm 40, I don't want to be on a truck anymore. Not that I am now, not often, but I don't want to answer the phones. I don't want to, I got 4 years to try to grow this to where I can go into the office and give high fives and shake hands and kiss babies, as they say.
I love that. So a couple of nice aspirational goals there. I like the concept of, I forget what Wade calls it, you mentioned it, but like being a large fish in a small pond. It's a really great place to be at, you know?
Hometown Titan.
Hometown Titan, there you go. And I like the concept of having, not franchising necessarily, but you know, having one central hub and then having a couple local sort of districts where you can send people out from. That seems really, really smart. And disconnecting yourself from the business, I think a lot of people dream from that. Not entirely right, because the business is a big part of your life, but just so that when you need to, you can separate yourself from that. So I wish you all the best of that. I want to thank you for everything you've shared today. If people want to find you online, whether you personally or your business, what's the best place for people to reach out to you?
So moveunh.com is our website. MoveUNH, I'm pretty sure, is our Instagram. You can find us on Facebook. Um, Me personally, Christopher Marr, on Instagram or Facebook. I post a lot of workout stuff, so if you're interested in any of that. But for the moving side, moveunh.com. We're based out of Southern New Hampshire. We're pretty easy to find.
Amazing. I'll put all of that in the YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast description. So if you guys do want to reach out to Chris, please do. As you can tell, he's great at what he does and he's going to take great care of you. Before I actually finally do let you go, the fitness side of things, how important is that for business? Keeping active on top of everything else.
I mean, I tell our guys, if you're not taking care of your health, you're not going to be able to do this for a long time.
Mm.
Day in, day out, it's a physical job. If you're not eating right, sleeping right, taking care of your body, you're going to break down. And doing this 5 days in a row, 6 days in a row, you're going to burn out, or your back's going to hurt, or your shoulders are going to hurt, or whatever have you. So health and fitness and nutrition, I think, is the backbone of everything. Even I've seen great entrepreneurs that weren't healthy, and then they made the switch and became even better entrepreneurs. Yeah, it's like this is the one thing you have control over. You can't control other people or what happens in your companies all the time, but you can control what you put into yourself, whether that's food for thought or food for your body or exercise. Like, you can control that. So
It's interesting. We might have to have a whole separate podcast on that because
yeah,
I imagine like mindset, nutrition, sleep, all of that stuff, like how to be a high achieving entrepreneur and also how to achieve on the truck with all of that stuff is crucial because like you said, it's so hard and so a lot of people do that wrong, the nutrition and the sleep. Because after you've had a long day working, you don't necessarily need to go to the gym and lift some extra stuff. Some stretching is going to go a long way, and you on your off days you can go ahead and get that lift in. But I think nutrition and sleep is just like a non-negotiable at any ring of the ladder sort of thing. So I might have you back on the podcast for exactly that. But I want to
yeah,
thank you again so much for joining us today. It's been really, really awesome.
yeah. Thank you, Brian. I greatly appreciate it.